Hey everybody, how are you today? Welcome to episode number 2 of Mr. Oza's virtual class. I want to thank you so much for joining me. I want to let you know first, I highly recommend that you watch the first video of Mr. Oza's virtual classroom. That is the introduction to Siddhartha. I highly recommend that you watch that video before you watch this one. Today, our goal is to talk about the themes and motifs in this novel called Siddhartha. Once again, if you watch the introduction to this Siddhartha video before that I just mentioned, it's going to make this video make a lot more sense. So let's jump right into it. Our goals today, we want to talk about 3 specific themes in this novel Siddhartha. Real quick review, what is a theme? My best way of answering that question, or my favorite way of answering that question, is to say, think about the author of this story. What is the author's goal in writing this story? They want to show off their writing skills, publish a book, make themselves feel proud, but really they have deep issues, deep topics, very interesting issues that they want to discuss, and they want to show off these different issues or these controversial topics in a very creative way. And so we have these 3 themes, that Hermann Hesse, the author of this novel, really wants to focus on. So the first one is the search for enlightenment. The second one is exterior guidance versus interior guidance. This is help, from the outside, and this is kind of helping yourself. We have the balance between asceticism and personal enjoyment. I think we all know what personal enjoyment is, but asceticism is when you kind of deprive yourself of the traditional pleasures in life. All right, so we're going to talk about motifs now for a second. Motifs is a motif is a word that basically means something that you see a lot of in a story. If you're going to see a lot of love in a story, for example, you can call that a motif. Common motif might be physical violence or something. A war movie, you could consider a motif to be violence in a war movie, for example. Motif is a word that people like to use in like the maybe interior decorating industry, and say the motif of this room is kind of like a wood panel motif, or the motif of this house is blue. We're going to have this house be all different shades of blue. So anyways, in a novel, motif, I like to explain it by saying it's just something that you're going to see a lot of. So you're going to see a lot of love of different people, objects, and concepts. I think it's important, or I think most people would argue that it's important in this life to, have love be a priority. Some people totally not interested in connecting it with other people, but a lot of us enjoy having love in our lives. Polarities and opposites. Polarities, if you kind of think of like, the planet Earth, and you have a North Pole and a South Pole, they're like kind of far apart. Technically they're pretty similar. They're both really cold, but polarities really means like the opposite, north versus south, So opposites and polarities are kind of like the same thing. Polarities is maybe a fancy word of saying that. And then, just like a literary classic, symbolism. This novel is chock full of symbolism. And I'll give you 1 or 2 examples of that towards the end of the video. All right. So first things first, we'll talk about enlightenment. It's a wonderful picture. It has to do with yoga. Some people believe that if you practice yoga, then you can achieve enlightenment. And so, yoga is this practice of stretching that people have been doing for thousands of years, and it started in India. All right, and this is a beautiful photograph that says enlightenment. All right, what is enlightenment? It's a term that means something different to everybody, so it's hard to say that there is one specific definition of enlightenment. What makes me feel enlightened could be completely different than what is going to make you feel enlightened. But I like to say, in general, to feel enlightened or to have a feeling of enlightenment is when you feel like wise, or you feel intelligent, you feel a sense of like understanding of the world around you. Maybe you feel like you have discovered your purpose in this world. You've discovered what you were put here on this earth to do. I like to describe enlightenment as a feeling when you have maybe learned something. You walk out of like a really good class, and you maybe participated in that class, and you feel confident. Maybe you're like shaking, your adrenaline is pumping because you have achieved some knowledge and maybe shared that with other people in an academic setting. I would say that would make me feel pretty enlightened. When you have accomplished something, you feel good about yourself. When you achieve something in an athletic setting, or whatever hobby that you enjoy, whether it's video games or music or fashion or what have you, if you can accomplish something and you feel like you've kind of earned a reward, I could say that's a feeling of enlightenment. After all, we need to find purpose in this life. We need to find a reason for being alive. Some people really enjoy, just playing video games. And so if you beat the game, or, you defeat your friend in the game, there's no reason why you shouldn't feel a little bit of enlightenment by doing that. Are there more important things to life? Of course there are, but playing video games can make people feel enlightened, right? It's all about you. It's all about what you prioritize. All right. What is enlightenment? One more possible working definition. It's, feeling proud of yourself and also making other people proud of you. Human beings are very social creatures, and we have this desire to feel, acceptance, or, we want to make our families proud and our friends proud and our partners proud. And so, it's not always about feeling proud of yourself. I have students come up to me and say, you know what, mister, school is not really for me. I'm doing this for my mom. I want to make her feel proud of me. I want to show her that I can accomplish something, get a degree, something like that. So it's not just feeling proud of yourself and getting your diploma and achieving your goals, but it might have to do with the important people around you in life. All right, out of all the themes and motifs we're going to talk about today, we are going to probably spend the most time on this first one here, the search for spiritual enlightenment. Of course, how does this relate to the story? Our main character, Siddhartha, the whole reason, why this book was written is we want to learn about his journey. We want to see his journey where he leaves his religion of Hinduism and his father and his loving family behind to search for enlightenment in other places. All right, so what does enlightenment feel like? As I ask some of these questions, I basically just want you to kind of think of or even jot down the answer. So what does enlightenment feel like? Pretty good. Is enlightenment the same for everyone or not? I would argue that different people feel different. People they're not always similar, and so, sorry for tripping over my words there, but is enlightenment the same for everyone? I would say no. There we go. All right, can enlightenment come through religion? Absolutely. Religion, one of the important things about religion is the sense of community, a place where you can, go and meet up with your neighbors and religious leaders and so on. And so, praying together, singing together, that sort of thing is, of course, going to bring people enlightenment. And, for people who, believe in higher being, they want to get closer to God, and they want to have some sort of method, some sort of regular method for doing that. And so religion gives them the perfect opportunity to do that, because there are so many other people, regardless of what religion it is. Religions are groups of people, so you're always going to have somebody to kind of put your arm around and say, hey, we're going to have this kind of religious, spiritual, enlightening experience together. For many people, that's every Sunday. Can enlightenment come through education? Big time, capital, all caps, YES. Yes, of course, enlightenment comes through education. Learning about the world around you is the only way to really conquer that world around you. What does it mean to conquer the world around you? That's for you to decide. You have to kind of decide what is your way of conquering the world. You're not going to really conquer much without educating yourself and knowing what's going on out there. Can enlightenment come through hobbies like music or sports? What do you think? Gotta say yes on this one too. Again, these are just my opinions that I'm throwing out there, but hopefully I'm starting a discussion, at least within your own mind. But can enlightenment come through your hobbies? Of course. Why else would you spend time playing video games and, picking out your outfits in the morning and listening to music and creating your own music and playing sports and watching sports on TV? If you put time into things and you put effort into things, of course you're going to get enlightenment through those things. Have you ever felt a moment of enlightenment? Out of all of these different things that I have talked about, I want you right now, just think for a second. Have you ever felt a really satisfying moment of enlightenment? Think about it. Was it a religious experience? Was it an educational experience? Did it have to do with one of your hobbies? Think about it. You want to try and recreate as many enlightening moments as possible in your life. I feel like that's one way to have a very satisfying and happy life, is to add meaning to your life, find enlightenment, and seek that feeling by achieving cool, awesome things. All right, examples of enlightenment. Like I said, we're going to spend a lot of time on this one. I'm getting ready to move on to the second theme shortly. But, who in this picture is enlightened? My man. He might not know the right answer. You know what? But he's giving it a shot. He's going to ask a question, tell you he's not going to the bathroom. He's not asking him to go to the bathroom. He is participating in this class discussion. He's a little awkward too. He's maybe this is the first time in class when he's participating. You know what? Participating in class and getting involved with a teacher, just who is on any sort of rant about any topic, can lead you to enlightenment. You never know what teacher is going to lead you down a really interesting path. So participate in class. This dude, my man, so enlightened. Not as enlightened, at least not now. Maybe next period, have breakfast. Getting your high school diploma, I have to say, is an example of enlightenment. Getting any degree in general, is a great sense of accomplishment, and we all do it for so many different reasons. Hopefully this just gets you excited to have that graduation day coming up. Can you feel enlightened from just watching a beautiful sunrise? Think about it. Have you ever sat and watched a sunrise? Maybe if you have, think about that experience. Probably pretty memorable. What was enlightening about it? Who were you surrounded by? What were you talking about? What was going on? Watching a sunrise is not exactly an everyday thing. Maybe it is for some people, but I'm talking about like an emotional sunrise, not just like waking up and going to work and watching the sunrise during your morning commute. You know what I mean? So, it could be basically what I'm trying to say is like nature-induced enlightenment. Nature around us, very beautiful. Got to take in the time to enjoy it. It can lead us to enlightenment. Going to a rock concert, is that going to bring you enlightenment? Is this going to bring you enlightenment? Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Music gives you a feeling, a very hard to describe feeling. How do you describe the feeling of music when you're just like bopping your head and maybe you're dancing, maybe you're playing an instrument, maybe you're clapping, maybe you're singing, we all have different ways of interacting with music. Almost everyone I've met in my life, I can at least say, has enjoyed some type of music. And music has this way of playing with our emotions. There are some very gifted songwriters out there, and they are able to play with our emotions. And so can music, performing, listening to, participating in any way, can music bring you to that feeling? Gotta say, yes. One of the examples of enlightenment from a few slides ago is that enlightenment can come through religion. Is there a connection between religion and music? Absolutely, of course. All right, walking through the forest, will that bring you towards enlightenment? A little bit of exercise maybe. Can even say like going to the gym, feeling good about your fitness, your wellness, and your health. Is that going to make you feel enlightened? I would think so. Is one of the goals of this life to live a long life? Is one of the goals of life or the meaning of life for you? Is it to live until you're 70 years old? Is it to live till you're 75? Is it to live until you're 80? Like, do those things matter to you? Are you going to feel enlightened by getting a good workout in, maybe lifting a couple pounds, running a little bit, walking through the woods, feeling some fresh air? Are you going to feel enlightenment from those things? Maybe. Maybe not everybody. Just one example. We did mention religion, of course, earlier. This is an example of a beautiful church where people can come together and pray in times of happiness and in sadness, like a funeral, for example, and the sense of community, maybe even the music in this beautiful setting can lead us to a sense of enlightenment. Here's an example of a Hindu temple, and in the novel that we're reading, Siddhartha is searching for enlightenment. He leaves the Hindu religion in search for enlightenment elsewhere. All right, moving on to the next theme. We spent about 13 minutes on the first one, so these themes are pretty important. We're not going to spend as much time on the motifs. We don't want this video to be too long, but anyways, the second theme here in this list of three themes has to do with guidance. We have inner guidance and we have exterior guidance. Quite obviously, inner guidance is guidance that comes from within, self-directed growth. Like when you decide, I'm going to do something and I'm going to take responsibility for it myself. Exterior guidance is when, you have a little bit of help from the outside world. Maybe it's the internet, maybe it's a teacher, maybe it's a friend. Anyone outside of yourself that's helping you would be considered exterior guidance. So let's talk more about exterior guidance for a second. I mean, we all need a little help in life, right? So who can provide you with exterior guidance? Think deeply about it for a second. Family? Super valuable when it comes to exterior guidance. Friends, relatives, maybe you have a good teacher or two that you can really trust. Do you need exterior guidance in life? Maybe, maybe not. Sometimes, maybe not always. Think about it. I would like to think that you want to balance out having help, exterior guidance and interior guidance, or inner guidance. All right, so talking about inner guidance or interior guidance, when you don't have any help from the outside world, or sometimes you just want to be independent. Do you have the discipline to guide yourself? Do you have the discipline to achieve your goals, without having help from the outside world? Do you want to do your schoolwork by yourself? Do you want to sit there independently and figure it out? Or do you want the help of a teacher? Do you want the teacher to kind of walk you through it? Maybe at least the first time that would be helpful, then you can do it on your own later. And that would be an example of exterior guidance, help from the teacher, leading you to, a more independent path towards interior guidance. The teacher can help you solve that math problem the first time, give you the formula, and then later on, you can do it on your own. Maybe a more simplified example, this last one right here. Do you wake up with the aid of an alarm clock? Are you like me and you have your iPhone go off like 6 times before you have to wake up? 5 o'clock, 5:05, 5:10, 5:15, 5:20, and so on. And, the wife and the baby and the dog are all like, bro, you're killing us here. We're going to sleep at least another hour, and you're ruining it for us. I need a lot of exterior guidance when it comes to waking up in the morning because it's hard, so I rely on my alarm clock. Does somebody wake you up in the morning? Do you have somebody who comes in and goes, hey, time to school, let's get after it? Or, are you one of these special people that can just wake up on your own? All right, so now I'm not going to spend too much time on these. A few more essential questions for you to think about. What is more valuable? Help from others? Exterior guidance? Or motivation from within? Interior guidance? What is more valuable? Or does it depend on the situation? Do we need teachers? Maybe I shouldn't be saying that. Maybe I'm putting my own job in jeopardy. But do we really need them? We have, virtual classrooms. We have Wikipedia. We have all the resources of all of humankind's, ever since day one of humans, we can pretty much document all the good stuff that we've done, as long as we have internet access, that is. So do we really need teachers? Is exterior guidance really necessary? Or can we just guide ourselves, man? If it's all out there on that internet, then again, who's going to teach you how to use the internet? I don't know. If you're a little kid, can you just figure it out on your own? Do you really need any exterior guidance at all? Or, can you just guide yourself? Is enlightenment given to you? Or does it come from within? I'll give you this example. I always say that when you get your diploma, that'll be a moment of enlightenment. And inevitably, there will be someone handing you that diploma. But is anyone really giving you anything? Or did you earn that diploma yourself? Is that enlightenment being given to you? Or does it come from within? Is it something that you earned thanks to your effort and your hard work? What's more effective? The final one here on this page. What's more effective? Is it guiding yourself from within, or is it guidance from someone else? When it comes to saving time, saving your effort, and being very efficient in this life, what is more effective when you're trying to learn something new? Is it more effective? Is it faster to do it on your own, read your own textbooks, figure out the math problem on your own? Or is it going to be a faster process to learn from somebody else, or an outside source such as a book or an internet resource? All right, down to the third theme, another good one. All right, and then we'll do the motifs real quickly here. We are at about 18 minutes or so. So we have asceticism versus personal enjoyment. All right, so what is asceticism? Asceticism, a lot of different definitions. I encourage you to look it up yourself if you're really that interested. But asceticism, for our purposes within this novel of Siddhartha, has to do with kind of depriving yourself of the traditional pleasures in life. Basically, when you give up your personal enjoyment for religion, you give up your personal enjoyment for studying, maybe your school, your education. When you give up your personal enjoyment for fitness, or maybe your health, or your well-being, or other important things that aren't always that enjoyable. Are you going to fill out your FAFSA form even though it takes an hour and it might be a little bit of a pain? That would be maybe like a modern teenager example of asceticism. are going to put aside time to do kind of like non-enjoyable stuff, knowing that, it might result in personal enjoyment later in the future. I fill out my college applications, and I write essays, and I do FAFSA, and I do a little bit of research about what I want to do with myself after high school. You could say that is being ascetic in a modern world if you're a modern teacher. If you're a modern teenager, spending time on your education and educating yourself after high school, you say that's a very ascetic thing to do. When you could be out hanging out, being social, doing your thing, having fun, doing whatever personal enjoyment things that you enjoy. Within the context of the book, though, Siddhartha meets these characters called the Samanas, and they're extremely ascetic. Their path to enlightenment is by being so ascetic that they have no personal enjoyment out of any of the things that you and I get personal enjoyment out of. For example, delicious food? Nope, they don't eat. They only eat enough to stay alive. Cool fashion, nice Jordans, a nice, cool hip t-shirt? Nope, not going to happen. They don't even wear anything besides maybe a robe, or if it's really hot, just like some underwear, that's about it. Even walk around the jungle naked, So there are some extreme examples of asceticism. Later in the novel, Siddhartha gets involved in the business world. We meet this dude, Kumaswamy, who teaches him how to make a lot of money. And when you make a lot of money, then you can enjoy yourself by spending that money. So what is the answer here? What are we looking for? What is more important? Being ascetic, and doing those important things like studying, being religious, having good fitness, not eating 15 cheeseburgers, or is personal enjoyment more important? And say, hey, YOLO, you only live once. I'm going to eat 15 cheeseburgers right now. I don't really care because I'm only on this planet once. People have that attitude. What is the correct answer? Who am I to say? Is it worth balancing it out, having a nice even 50-50, being ascetic during the weekdays and enjoying yourself on the weekends? Who am I to say? That's just one man's opinion. But you need to decide these things. You need to decide how much you value asceticism. You need to decide how much you value your personal enjoyment. And you need to think about how much asceticism is going to lead to personal enjoyment in the future. So my answer is balance of both. Balance them out. A little bit of each. You're not going to enjoy yourself unless you are ascetic sometimes. That's just one man's opinion. All right? A couple of examples, What do you do on Sunday? Football in this country every Sunday afternoon. Also church, can do both. Wake up early and go to church and then watch football later. Can balance out your asceticism and your personal enjoyment. You're going to do fun, social, cool teenager things, or you're going to study. On the right-hand side, that might be the more ascetic thing to do. On the left-hand side, that might be the more, that might be the more personal enjoyment thing to do. What do you choose? What do you value? Is there time for both? I think there's time for both. Can you be ascetic in terms of your diet and your exercise and stuff like that? Which one would you rather eat? I would rather have both, man. Both of those are looking good. But if you want to be ascetic, maybe you have the salad instead. If you want to be more on the personal enjoyment side, maybe you have the burger. Can you balance it out? Can you have salads Monday through Friday and then on Saturday eat the burger? Sounds like a pretty good solution to me. All right. I don't think we need to talk too much about personal enjoyment. We all know what that is. Things you do for fun. Eat burgers. Watch football, Can you balance out that fun stuff with a little bit of asceticism? I kind of have this saying or, this kind of personal thought that when you are ascetic, when you study and you work hard and you work out and you have good fitness and stuff like that, then when you do indulge and you have that cheeseburger, or you stay up late and you hang out with your buddies and you watch movies and do all that personal enjoyment stuff, all that stuff is more satisfying when you were ascetic during the week, It's a lot more fun to hang out and eat a cheeseburger or pizza, after you maybe have gone for a jog or something like that, or gone for a walk, with the fams or something like that. All right, we are almost at 25 minutes, so here we go. We're going to talk about motifs, all right? Don't need to spend too much time on these, but motifs are just objects, ideas, concepts that repeat themselves throughout our literary work. Just quite frankly, motifs are things that you see a lot of. Pretty simple. Motifs are also tools that are going to help us discuss themes. So, each motif that I talk about, you can relate back to one of those 3 themes that we already talked about. All right? Love. Does love bring us closer to enlightenment? Is love something that brings you to a sense of accomplishment or happiness in life? Some people might say, and Siddhartha did say that, the Samanas would say this. Does love distract you from enlightenment? Does having a romantic partner or having important relationships that are not romantic with family or friends, do those relationships actually draw you further away from your purpose in life? Even though you love your best friend, or you love your group of friends, are they actually tearing you away from the source that could bring you higher enlightenment in life? Something to think about. Does love bring you closer or further away from enlightenment? What types of love exist and which ones are important to you? Family? Elders, young people, all different family members. Romantic relationships, how important are those? How do those lead to enlightenment? Objects or concepts. There are certain concepts that you just love, whatever it is. As a teacher, you get hooked on all these little concepts like haste makes waste. Don't rush through things. Don't rush through that assignment. There's going to be waste of time. So can you fall in love with a concept like that? And if so, does that bring you closer to enlightenment? I don't know. Just having that thought in my head makes me try to not rush through things. Do certain objects that you love bring you a sense of enlightenment? Do you have a wedding ring, for example? That tiny little symbolic object could be very meaningful, and that symbolism could lead you to a sense of enlightenment, which of course is the 3rd motif we'll talk about in a second. What else can you love? How important is love? How much should we prioritize it? Examples of the love motif in the story. We have all kinds of stuff going on. We have Siddhartha's father. We have the Samanas. We have Govinda. That's the best friend of Siddhartha. We have the Buddha himself. We have Kamala, a young woman that, is interested in Siddhartha, and likewise. And, money. It's important to love money. What type of relationship should you have with money? Is it healthy to love money? To really, really love money? All right, polarities and opposites. Can we learn from exploring 2 opposites? Can that learning bring us closer to enlightenment? I think the simplest way to answer this one is to talk about some examples of polarities and opposites in the story. And so the 2 banks of the river, we're going to talk about that a lot later in the story, and so I don't want to give that one away. But the 2 sides of the river in the story, we mentioned the Ganges River in the first video, but the 2 sides of the river are quite symbolic. On one side of the river, you have some issues to talk about. On this side of the river, you have some other issues to talk about. And let's just say that those are opposites. The 2 sides of the river are very different. You have the spiritual world and the material world is basically what I'm getting at. You have, like we mentioned just a moment ago, asceticism versus enjoyment. This example is polarities and opposites. Not trying to give too much away here, but we have examples in the story of virginity versus sexuality. And then we have this example of a heron and a jackal. A heron, a beautiful bird that flies around, and like a dead, rotting jackal. Examples of kind of freedom in life and just kind of like death. So, symbolism, finally, definition of symbolism, or motif number 3, is a small object or a picture or any sort of physical representation of something that you can hold. I always like to say, if a student is trying to talk about symbolism, okay, what object are we talking about? It's something that you can perhaps touch or feel or manipulate with your hands. Tell me what that object symbolizes. What does it mean? Does this bald eagle symbolize America? What does that octagon, the red octagon, symbolize? That symbolizes the stop sign. So in this story we have this river, and the river is a great example of symbolism. And so we have the river represents balance. This is the area in the middle of the country that represents the balance between the ascetic world and the world of personal enjoyment. This river itself represents the middle ground, between the spiritual world or the ascetic world and the material world or the personal enjoyment world. That'll make a lot more sense when we get deeper into the novel, and you'll notice how the novel is kind of structured. If I can make this kind of little diagram right here with my highlighters, out of this ascetic world and spiritual world, that world makes up the first few chapters, right? This enjoyment and material world makes up some of the later chapters, and in the middle, this river This is where Siddhartha crosses the river. A little bit of a makeshift diagram, but I hope that kind of explains the symbolism of the river. The river is the middle ground. On one side, you have asceticism, the spiritual world. On the other side, you got like party central, material world, like cool stuff, enjoyment, fun times. The river is that middle ground, that area of balance. Where do you want to be? You want to be on this side, being all spiritual and stuff, or you want to be on this side, enjoying yourself? I'll tell you where I want to be. I want to be right in the middle. I want to find that middle ground. That's where you want to be. You want to be right in the river. Maybe not inside of the river, because you'll drown, but maybe like right here or right here. All right, guys, I want to thank you so much for joining us here at Mr. Oza's virtual classroom. All right, we got some next steps for you. This is pre-reading number 2, the assignments that we are working on. All right, so you're going to answer some questions, some short answer questions about 3 themes and 3 motifs. Remember, these are the themes and motifs that we will talk about in our do-nows during class. And, of course, you can find those at hlc.joza.org. Y'all been there by now. Check out the next video. It's coming up. It's going to have to do with the early chapters of Siddhartha. So please enjoy. Once again, I want to thank you, as always, for watching Mr. Oza's virtual classroom. Episode 2. We out here about to get some enlightenment from some tunes here. Thank you guys.